Batman the Dark Knight 23.2, aka Mr. Freeze, written by Justin Gray and Jimmy Palmiotti, art by Jason Masters. So, a lot of this is kind of just a recap of Batman Annual number 1, I believe, but there is some new elements to it. So, over 30 years ago, we're in Gotham City, and we see that Victor Freeze's dad is walking out on his family without a word, just leaving. The mom's crying, telling him to come back, but he just leaves. And we see the mother come up and try to comfort Victor, and it's just like, hey, maybe we should go live with Grandma out in Nebraska. That sound good? And just be like, yeah, okay, I guess. Is Dad coming home? He's like, no, that's why we're going to Nebraska. But don't worry, I'm going to be with you forever. And then we see they went out onto a lake. The mother fell through the ice, and Victor tried to save her, but ultimately she survived, but was essentially brain dead. She was no longer responsive or able to be there for Victor as she promised. So we then cut to present day where Victor is in some suburban household completely filled with snow, and he's just explaining this. He's like, yes. Here's the thing. A lot of people think, including Batman, but he's wrong. They think that my whole thing with Nora, the girl that I said was my wife, that in this current continuity is not my wife, had to do with an Oedipus complex with my mother. It is not an Oedipus complex. I want to make that clear. I did not have sexual relations with my mother. However, I did have a thing where, I don't have any physical touch with people anymore. And, maybe I just kind of have a thing with that. So at that point, he makes this thing saying yes, life is a mosaic full of surfaces. Some are reflective, but only when you step back and take it all in can you get the full shape of things. So we then get out in Arkham Asylum. He gets a newspaper clipping, he doesn't know from who, of basically someone named Freeze, who looks just like his father. And he's like, that's my dad. My dad went and in Gotham started a new family. He didn't even leave the city. He just started a new family here. And he's just thinking on this, and he's talking to his therapist. And his therapist is like, well, are you angry about this? And be like, why would I be angry? He abandoned us. He started another family. Why would I be angry at him? I have no ill will towards him. However, I do now have extra family members, and those are people I want to meet. And he's like, right, but I don't think that's a good idea. See, you have what we call obsessive love disorder, Victor. You latch on in unhealthy ways to these family members. And he's like, I've read my paperwork, doctor. That's not even a theory. You just pulled that out of your ass. And also, I have seen the big rubber stamp on my file that says uncurable. So I know you're only here just to placate me. And he's like, right. Okay, well, how about this? I'm going to get you a crown, and I'm going to get you to write a letter to these new families, and I promise you I will get the letters to your family members. Okay? And if they want to see you, that'll be with them. He's like, all right, well, if you're lying to me, I'm going to kill you. So the whole thing of, crime syndicate, forever evil happens. He manages to escape. And as he does so, he busts into the doctor's office, and he's like, oh, hey, I was wondering if you were still here. Do you still have my letters? And he looks at the doctor's desk, finds them, and he's like, can't be a man against my word, doctor. And so he just straight up kills the doctor, shoves the letters in his throat. So we see him boarding a boat, which, frankly, I don't know where it's going to or where it's coming from. But regardless, there's a nurse on board from Arkham who was always good to him. And this nurse is being attacked by some cannibals that also broke out of Arkham. And they start trying to attack her. And then Mr. Freeze steps up, grabs one of them, freezes his head, and crushes in his hand, saying, hey, this nurse is under my protection. Consider your next move carefully. And so the cannibals, of course, start attacking him. He just continues to freeze their heads and smash to them. And he's like, well, Nurse Wilmot, I've saved your life. When we board, I think I'm going to need your help with some things. So as they board, basically, she just manages to track down the information on where the family now lives. And we see Victor in modern day explaining all this, setting up the table, getting all the dishes in place. And he's like, oh, right. How fair. I should have told you about my condition. Also, in the interstitial, the father actually died. His father is dead, but he's like, well, no matter. Yes, I'm so sad he died. I would have liked to have met him again. But regardless, I now have you still, my new family. So he explains his condition, and it's everything that we saw, where Nora's not actually his wife. It's just some random girl he grew an attachment to. Bruce Wayne says, hey, no using Wayne Tech money for that. He throws a chair at some chemicals, and it causes him to become Mr. Freeze. And he's like, yeah. I focused my anger on Wayne, but I know that that's not the person who did it. Instead, I focus it now on Batman, because Batman shattered the illusion of me loving this woman, and that's he broke apart my life. How dare he do such a thing? And we see him still talking to his family. He's like, all right, I'm getting off track. I need to go down and prepare dinner. And he goes down into the basement. He goes down into the basement, where we see a bunch of body parts all in bags, very clearly his father, and he sees the newspaper on top of the body parts with his father's face cut off. And so as he's giving grace for all the food, he holds up a glass and he's like, it's so good to be part of a loving family again, and I swear to you, I will never let anyone take you away from me ever again. Not Bruce Wayne, not Batman, nobody. I will be the father that you guys deserve. And as we zoom out to the rest of the family, they are frozen absolutely solid, killed by Mr. Freeze. During the annual, I said I wasn't a huge fan of this new updated style of origin, specifically the part where Nora is not his wife. I still think that. I still think that Nora should be his wife. But I must give credit here that I do like that they said, okay, you guys didn't like the fact that we gave him an unhealthy obsession with somebody that had no attachment to him. Now what we're doing is we're introducing this essentially step family, and he's introduced himself as the patriarch. So we're moving out of the scorned lover and now the family who is he'll do anything for sort of role. And I'm more okay with that. I like the fact that they put it back to, okay, this is a family bond to some extent, but I'm less okay with the fact that he killed his own father. At least that's what's implied. Or at the very least, he cut up his father into tiny little pieces, which is still just as messed up. So there's a lot to unpack here. I can't say I really particularly enjoyed it. It was a fine issue, but I just, in the back of my head, I still had that annual the whole time, and how this automatically feels like it's trying to fix that. It's trying to adjust the way that was done. So I'm going to give this I'll give it a 6.5. It does have its merits. I do want to point out that if this were like any other character but being told in the same way, I probably would give this a good 7.5, but I am still just wrestling with that. This is New 52 continuity Mr. Freeze, and I'm just not on board with that as a core concept. So 6.5 is as high as I'm going to give it.